CORSAIR iCUE Pro XT CPU coolers are built for low noise and high performance, featuring 16 brilliant RGB LEDs, up to a 360mm radiator, and include up to 3 CORSAIR ML series fans. CORSAIR Pro XT coolers are designed for Intel 9th and 10th generation Core series processors, as well as AMD Ryzen and Ryzen Threadripper, including everything you need for installation on Intel LGA 1151, 2066, and AMD AM4 and STRX4 sockets. If you have an Intel-based system, install the Intel LGA 1151 backplate on the underside of your motherboard and secure it in place with the Intel LGA 1151 standoffs. If you have an Intel LGA 2066 socket, you only need to install the provided standoffs. The correct Intel mounting brackets should already be installed on the pump head. If you've got a system with an AM4 socket, Pro XT coolers will mount using the stock AMD mounting brackets located above and below the AM4 socket on your motherboard. Remove the Intel mounting brackets from the Pro XT pump head and replace them with the included AMD AM4 brackets. The brackets should snap into place. Insert the AMD screw clips and use the included thumb screws to secure them to the mounting bracket. Only fasten the thumb screws a few turns for now. If you have a motherboard with an STRX4 socket, fasten the provided STRX4 standoffs to the mounting points on the socket and install the STRX4 mounting brackets onto the pump head. Install the radiator and fans to your case using the provided screws and washers. Now that the radiator and fans are in place, you can mount the pump head to your CPU socket. Remove the plastic cover from the pump head cold plate to expose the pre-applied thermal paste. Gently place the pump head onto your processor and secure it in place using the included thumb screws. Be sure to tighten the thumb screws in a cross pattern to ensure that even pressure is applied. If you have an AM4 socket, loosen the thumb screws holding the AM4 screw clips to the bracket and fasten to the stock AMD mounting clips. Tighten the thumb screws until secure. Route the pump power cable to the back of your system and connect it to an available SATA power plug. Connect each fan on the radiator to the 4-pin fan connectors coming off of the pump head. Connect the provided USB cable to the pump head and route the cable to the back of your system. Find an open USB 2.0 header on your motherboard and connect the other end of the USB cable to the header. Now you can customize your Pro XT cooler's lighting and performance curves in CORSAIR iCUE. And that's it! CORSAIR iCUE Pro XT liquid coolers offer killer looks with fantastic RGB lighting and killer performance. For more information about the Pro XT coolers or our other CPU cooling solutions, go check them out at corsair.com. Thanks for watching.
The Kraken M22 is an all-in-one 120mm liquid cooler. Because the M22 is a closed-loop system, you'll never need to add or replace the coolant. In the box you will find the Kraken M22 with a pre-installed Intel retention bracket, a second bracket for AMD sockets, a universal backplate, screws, spacers, thumb springs, washers, a mini USB cable, thermal paste, and an NZXTK P 120mm fan. All you would need for a new installation is a Phillips head screwdriver. If you're replacing an existing CPU cooler, you'll need rubbing alcohol and a clean, lint-free cloth to remove any previous applied thermal paste. The universal backplate is used with most Intel AMD CPU sockets. Locate the 4 standoff screws and 4 M2 screws, which will be the smaller of the shorter screws. The bracket will have a recess on one side, which will allow the M2 screws to be flush with the bracket. Locate the installation location for the CPU socket you have, and install the 4 standoff screws. Be sure not to over-tighten, or you may damage the backplate. For installation on Intel socket 115X CPUs, attach the standoff screws at these points. And for any AMD installations, attach the standoff screws here or here based on your CPU. Insert the backplate onto the back of the motherboard, and add the provided spacers. If there is thermal paste on the CPU from a previously installed fan, use a few drops of rubbing alcohol and a clean cloth to remove the old thermal paste. If you're installing the M22 on an AMD CPU, you'll need to change the mounting bracket. Pull on the sides of the current bracket to slide it out of the slots on the pump. Then gently slide the AMD bracket in its place. Apply a pea-sized drop of provided thermal paste on the center of the CPU. Align the holes in the retention bracket with the standoffs and lower the M22 onto the CPU. It's best to keep the pump head as level as you can so the thermal paste spreads evenly. Using the plastic washers and supply thumb nuts with springs, secure the Kraken to the motherboard. Do not over-tighten the thumb screws or you may damage the CPU and the motherboard. The springs should not be fully compressed. We recommend mounting the radiator in one of two places. To mount the radiator in the back of your rig, attach the NZXT Air P fan to the radiator with a 30mm screw and metal washers, making sure the airflow on the fan shows air moving into the radiator and out of the back. Then use the 5mm screws with metal washers on the outside of the case to mount the radiator to your system. If mounting to the front of your case, attach the NZXT Air P fan to the radiator, making sure the airflow arrow on the fan shows air pulling air from the radiator and into your PC. Then use the 5mm screws with the metal washers to mount the radiator. Connect the 3-pin pump power cable, which is attached to the radiator, to the 4-pin CPU fan header, all-in-one header, or water pump header on the motherboard. Then connect the mini USB cable to the Kraken, and an internal USB 2.0 header on the motherboard. Finally, connect the Air P fan into the CPU fan header or the system fan header. Turn on your PC and download CAM at the camwebapp.com. Once installed, you'll use CAM to set up the RGB lighting effects and monitor your PC, including the CPU temperature. Thank you for watching Builder's Workshop. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more installation videos and be sure to visit NZXT.com for more information about our products.